Hey Trish, delighted to be chatting with you. Myself and Steve, who I believe that you already know.
Yes,
Yes,
we've met before.
yeah, only just on the twice or two occasions, of course, but
Okay.
both quite significant occasions, of course. And it was all about your books that you've recently put together over the last few years. But before we start that, how's life over in Rabymere today? It's Rabymere you live, isn't it,
It
around that
is
area?
Raby yes. Yeah.
Yeah, is it as
It's,
bad as it is
I've
it
got
as
to
bad
say,
as it is here? Cloudy and wet and well,
a
it's a
bit
bit damp.
cloudy, a bit damp. It's not too bad. I've not been out much because we've had the family over for Sunday dinner. So it's been a bit hectic. I've not really gone outside much, but yeah, it's a bit cloudy and miserable.
Yeah. So if you've had all the family over, then that will have stopped you doing any writing this afternoon, because I know how much you
Oh
like
no,
to
right, no
write.
writing when there's kids around. No, you can't even think when there's kids around.
Wonderful. Well, the other thing I was going to mention, the Terry asked me about whether you knew any of our other local authors, likes of Gina Kirkham, David Jackson, Luca Veste. But I know you know of them, but you've never met these people, have you?
No, I haven't. I know of Gina Kirkham, but we were in different division, and her books are more humorous. Looking at it, mine aren't, and mine are not based on my own experiences. I borrow on my own experiences, but they're different. I am friends with another author, Jonathan Mayhew. He writes the D.I. Blake series.
I know
Strange.
I know Jonathan very well. I've read all his books, actually, all his DI ones. Yeah, the whole lot.
Yeah, the D.I. Blake
And
ones. Yeah,
yeah,
he actually
he's
used to be friends with my brother when they were at school, but they lost touch when they left school and went on to the various colleges. And it's funny that we've sort of got in touch now, and he's back in touch with my brother. And yeah, it's like full circle, you know.
yeah, it's John Mayhew's birthday today, actually,
It is.
and
Yeah.
his family, or Linda, his wife, is a good friend of my sister. My
Yeah.
sister is currently living in America, though. But yeah, that's how I know him. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right.
Small world, small world,
Mm.
small world. Yeah. So before talking about your novels, uh, the two, Blue Sky and Bluebird, what do you do when you relax? And I know you're going to tell me you're right, probably. Or what have you got as hobbies?
I Writing is my hobby. It is what I do to relax. I mean, I could say I've got six grandchildren. I've got three sets of grandchildren.
How old are they,
And
Trish?
sorry,
How old are they?
ranging between 20 months and 13 years.
Oh, handful.
Yeah. I don't have them all at the same time, but it works out that every day I have one set or another of grandchildren. But you can't write with kids around. You can't even think of the same because, especially when the baby's here, you know, because she's just all the time. And so I do that. I'm also a magistrate. So I don't have much time for anything else other than the writing. And it's what I've enjoyed doing for a long, long time anyhow. So it's just when I was younger, I didn't have much time to write again because my own children and a job and all the rest of it. But now I have a little more time, so that's what I do to relax. I write.
Yeah, I dabbled with looking into being a magistrate and went for an interview, and I thought, I don't know if I could give it the full time, to be honest, or I couldn't justify the amount of time they needed. I know it's only voluntary and it's not that often, but they've got a big backlog at the minute, haven't they? Do you find that's affecting you as well? Because there's so many cases that were left over from the
Well,
COVID period, if you like.
there is so many cases, and they're always emailing us. Can somebody do this? Can somebody come in for this? You know, and basically, I do what I can do. I don't do what I can't do, and I don't worry about it. And when we're in court, we just deal with what's put in front of us. I'm not going to bite my nails fretting about what's happening out there. You know, I just deal what we're given, and that's it. Because you'd go crazy if you thought about it. But at the moment, I mean, I was in court last Thursday, it was, and we're dealing with cases from 2021. You know, we're coming to the end of 2022. That's the sort of backlog we're looking at.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, when it's that long ago? And but at
Mm.
least you're able to compartmentalize it, if you like. You walk away from it and forget about it. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. I'd be going, did I make the right decision? Well, oh, I don't know. I'm so my head would be battered, I think.
Well, it's about after we've had court, after the court session, what we normally do is we go back to the retiring room and we talk about it. And we talk about, does anybody have any doubts about what we did? Does anybody want to just talk about the decisions we made? Because we talk about each decision anyway, because there's three of us normally, usually we agree, but sometimes one might disagree. And then we'll go and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about why we reached those decisions. Do we think we were right in those decisions? And it sort of clears it for you. And I must admit, I've never gone home from court thinking, shouldn't have done that. I'm always gone home feeling, yeah, we did the right thing.
Now, I had a discussion with Terry about this. Terry says your books are crime books. Would you agree?
Yes, crime, specifically, I would say police procedural, set in the 70s. This is the time before PACE, when we still had the judge's rules. No computers, everything was paper, no mobile phones.
Yeah, it took you 4 days to get in touch with DVLA, didn't it? To get a car registration back or something like that.
Yeah, I remember when I very first started, you had to fill in a little buff card and you'd send it down to DVLA, and a few days later you'd get back the name and address, and then you could continue your inquiries. But that was considered pretty good then, We didn't know any better. We didn't have any better.
Yeah, and of course it's instant
DNA
now, isn't it?
Yeah, no such thing as DNA in those days. I mean, in those days, now you get a strand of DNA and you get the name and address and eye colour. These days, back then, you'd need a patch of blood the size of your hand, and you might get the fact that they were male or female and maybe the blood group. That was it.
Well, why is it that period that you've chosen to set the novels? Is it because of that? Because of the lack of technology to make it more, I don't know, more interesting? Bit of historical.
No, it was my period of policing.
Okay.
70s and 80s. It's what I know. It's what I knew because I was there. I was there when policewomen. I was a cadet. I went straight from school into the police, but I was too young to be a constable, so I was a cadet. And then I was the minimum age I could be as soon as you were 18 and a half. Well, it was 19 originally, and then they put it down to 18 and a half. We were shipped off to the training school to train as constables. So when I started, it was very, very low tech. So I was there when everything was changing. They disbanded the policewoman's department. I was the second intake after the policewoman's department had been disbanded. There was it was the November, I think they had the December intake, and I was the February intake, which was the second intake after that. So we happened to sort of get you. There was no policewoman's department, so we were put on the blocks with the men on the same footing as the men, earning the same money as the men, working the same hours as the men. And there was mixed feelings about it, shall we say. The policewomen had to be sort of dispersed around the officers, so a lot of them found themselves nice little office jobs. Irene is one such person in one of my characters. She's the collator, and she fell on her feet becoming a collator. It's actually part of the CID now. It's all the crime investigation unit, but then it was a specific little office. So she was a sergeant, and they couldn't demote her, but at the same time they didn't really want her on a block, so they made her collator. So yeah, me 18, imagine 18 and a half, and I was a bit of a mouse at the time. I'm not the gobby cow I am now, but then and I was put on this block with all these big tall blokes, and I'm thinking, well, what the hell do I do here? I didn't know anything. I knew the theory, I didn't know a damn thing. And I remember one of the very first jobs, I've actually mentioned in the first book, the Rose and Arthur exchange, and she asks whether she's ever been married. That actually is proper dialogue, because I went to this domestic and these people were older than my parents, and some of the things they were calling each other, and this was a complete culture shock to me, because I'd never even heard my dad speak disrespectfully to my mum. Never mind scream some of the things that this person was screaming at his wife, and she was screaming back again. And I remember trying to talk to her. She just looked me up and down and went, "Have you ever been married?" No. It's off then. So yeah, okay, I'll just leave. And it's ridiculous, expecting 18-year-olds to go into that sort of thing. But yeah, that's the way it was.
Yeah, and your books pretty much mirror that. It reflects that in the book, the time it was, and women were, to be put in a place, basically, not to be out there telling them what to do. And that comes across really well in the books, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
not what the book's about. That's not what the book's about, though. I mean, everyone knows in the 70s it was difficult to be a woman, especially if you were going into a man's world. But although I refer to it, I try not to make that the theme of the book. Yeah. And also, I've had to make Sam a bit older than I was at the time, because I'm not writing for young adults. I needed to be an adult herself, but she was a bit bland the way she was. That's why I gave her a traumatic past.
Yeah, it comes across quite well, because she's a true gritty character and very determined, is Sam Barry in the book, and that comes across. That doesn't mirror your image, does it, from when you were in, by any chance?
She gets to say the things that I wished I could have said back then. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, I wasn't even grassroots. I was down with the worms, and I was below grassroots. I was right down at the bottom of the pile. So Sam isn't me, but yes, I'm using some of my own experiences, but she gets to say what I was thinking, but couldn't say.
Okay, yeah.
So she's a bit, as I say, she is a bit mouthy.
Trish, the character Samantha Barry. Did you have like an actress in mind? A face on the character, or was just your image as yourself, as in your previous?
An actress. Do you know the one that used to play in Call the Midwife, the dark-haired girl that left? I can't remember her name.
Was she in Coronation Street?
No, I don't think so. Was it Jennifer Worth?
Oh,
I'm not really familiar with her.
No, I'm not sure myself.
I think Samantha's got to look innocent and sweet and have a bit of a mouth on her. Yeah. That's how I see her. She's an innocent looking little thing, and she's only just over the minimum age, so the minimum size as well. So she's on the short side.
But she hasn't got a chip on her shoulder. She's actually very good. She just likes to take things into her own hands.
Yeah, this is the thing. She gets frustrated because she's a recruit. She doesn't get to do anything. Anytime she gets her hands on anything halfway interesting, it's taken off her. And given to someone else. And she is so frustrated about this. So this is why she keeps going off. She just thinks, well, I could do this, but then she doesn't think about the fact that there's stuff going on in the background. So she's a bit impetuous the way she rushes into things. And she's always being told, don't do that, don't do that. And she gets herself into mischief a few times. She gets herself into danger a few times rushing in the way she does. But she's just such a nosy cow that she just can't help herself. So she has to get in there and do it for herself, and then she knows what's going on. So it makes sense that she's being groomed, if you like, to go into the CID.
That's the sort of impression I'm getting
she's being groomed for that, and then she'll get her own cases that she can investigate herself. But Phil, who's her tutor constable, is trying to teach her that the uniformed officers are the visible deterrent. The CID officers do the inquiries. They're the investigators, and she's thinking, well, why can't we do it all? It's like
and of course, in the second book, the romance is blooming with Gary, and I'm not giving too much away here, obviously. Now, would Gary be based on Paul, your husband, or is that am I wider than mark?
Gary, in my mind, my husband's 6'5", and he is blonde, and he had grey eyes. And yes, I met him in the charge office at a police station, Babington Police Station, to be honest. Gary isn't Paul, although physically I sort of think of Paul as a young man when I'm writing him. But his attitude. He's far too laid back. Paul's not as laid back as that. He's a good boss, is Gary. He trusts people. He trusts his people to do what they're supposed to do, and he will wipe the floor with them if they don't do that. But he's nobody in my book is based on one particular person. I've pinched bits off people, but mostly the fabrication. I mean, Sam's friend Steve. I have a friend called Steve, who I was a police officer with at Bevington. Then I moved to Birkenhead, and then he moved to Upton, and we sort of lost touch and then met up again. And yeah, as happens when you're working around the place. Now I've pinched his name, obviously, and I've pinched some of his physical attributes, like his fair hair that used to curl around his helmet. And I remember Steve was always getting pulled up for that because he was supposed to have nice short hair, and he used to let this grow, and it would curl around his helmet. And Steve is convinced that Steve in the book is him. And I said, well, no, he isn't. He's just looks a bit like you. He's not you. But nobody is anybody. Yeah. I've just pinched bits from all over.
Yeah, I get that. And if I remember, I've read somewhere, I think it may be in the back part of the second book. I think you refer to your husband, Paul, as he'd helped you with a lot of the settings. And yeah, that'll work in this particular situation, or yeah, that's a good place to set that bit, you know. And I recognize different areas of the Wirral in the book, or I think I do, but you changed the names, obviously. But so I take it your Paul's helped you out with some of the settings and, you know, and things like that by the sounds of it, or looks of it.
Yeah, so, you know, the Clatterbridge roundabout and how wooded it is. So, yeah. I've always thought that's a really great place to hide a body. That could lie there for years and no one would ever find it, apart from all the cameras that are dotted around the place. They'd have you in 5 minutes. Yeah. But if you got rid of the cameras, that would be a great place to hide a body. Every so often, Paul will find a place and he goes, that'd be a good place. And he says to the kids, if your mum's talking murder again, if I ever go missing, just check the Clatterbridge roundabout.
Trish, can I ask how you connected with your publisher, Burning Chairs? That's an unusual name for a publishing house.
Yeah, Burning Chair. Yeah, I've never asked them why they got that, but yeah. What happened was a friend. Well, I was writing, as I say, for a long time, and I've written books before which I was sending out, not crime. Yeah. And although people was giving me good feedback, like like the voice, like the writing, but they're not invested enough to actually take me on. When I connected to Burning Chair, it was actually a friend of a friend. My friend Christine, who was also a policewoman back in the day, on a different block from me though. She was talking to her other friend who had heard of Burning Chair and said that they were keen to take people on. So Chris told me, and when I thought, well, I'm going to be cheeky and I'm going to write to them and just say, are you interested? And they were. Brilliant. So I sent the whole manuscript off, and then they wrote back saying, well, can you change this and this? Because that's what they do. Not, you know, no books goes in and comes out sort of without some changes. Yep. And so we worked through it, and it became the Bluebird that's now out.
Brilliant. Yeah. Are they local? Are they London based like most publishers?
Yeah, they're London based, but during lockdowns they were working from their own homes, and I'm not really sure where they are. Yeah. I just know they have offices in London.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on your Paul helping you out with some of the settings and suitable places like that. But where do you do most of your research? Do you do it in libraries, Google, word of mouth, or is it personal experiences? I know we touched on it a little bit. I just wanted to know a bit more.
I don't need to do a lot of research, to be honest with you, because I lived it. Occasionally I might speak to old colleagues to remind myself of the procedure at the time, because things change all the time. Yeah, there are procedures of that time or wordings of something at that time, or maybe the history of a place. But any mistakes that are made, they're mine. You know, I'm the one that making these mistakes. That's it. That's pretty well the extent of my research. Or I might try and dig up old maps, like in Birkenhead, all the old streets, which are now not there. So I like to dig up old maps so I can sort of see where I'm up to, because although Wire Hall Police Station is based at Bebington, I give them all different names, and I've moved places around. So places are close to other places that they're not really in real life. You know, the river obviously is the Mersey, but I just only ever refer to it as the river. But, you know, when people are moving around from one place to another, in my mind, the Ship Streets, where Karen Fitzroy lives.
I was just going to mention that. I was just going to mention the names of Ship Streets, aren't they? So I think I know where that is.
They are based on the old North End, which is
right.
now all demolished. All demolished, all gone. But that's where, in my mind, it is. But in my mind, transfer that to Bebington. Yeah,
because you base a lot of it around Bebington. But I can see where you've moved further afield as well.
Yeah.
So
Wire Hall Police Station itself, it's Bebington Police Station, which is a square box of a building. But inside, I'm thinking of Birkenhead, because they had like the proper big bridewell. And
that's true. Yeah, been in there, so I know.
Bebington didn't. They only had basically a couple of detention rooms, and the parade room at Birkenhead as well. That was bigger than the one at Bebington. So I'm sort of talking about the inside of it like Birkenhead, but the outside Bebington. I've just mixed it all up and renamed it all so people can't point a finger and go, that didn't happen, that's not there. You know, that's all that type thing.
Yeah, that actually makes sense, because I can see the connections between the two when I read the book, having seen both police stations. I've not seen the parade rooms. I can't remember what they were like, but I have seen the inside of both stations at some point. So yeah, I can see that.
Every parade room I've ever been in are stinking holes, basically, covered in flies and crap all over the windows and posters on the walls, and so one parade room is pretty much like the other. But the Birkenhead bridewell is the big bridewell. That's all been closed down now, but that's what I was thinking of. But imagine that in Bebington.
Yeah, I can do. And of course, you did recruit the services of someone who's an expert in parachutes for this second book, didn't you?
Well, not really. I'm part of a group called Crime and Publishment. They're actually based in Scotland, and I go up there every year. But they have like a conference, like a meeting, and we have sort of social stuff during the year as well. It's based at the Mill Forge at just outside Gretna, and we're all writers. We all meet up. Even the bloke that organises this, who runs the thing, is also a writer. You may have heard of Graham Smith, also writes as John Ryder. He runs it. So we go up there. Anyway, one of the writers there, John Coughlin, he happens to know about parachutes, which I knew absolutely nothing about. Not the first thing about. And he gave me a lot of advice over that. He was sort of just telling me about who would look after that type thing, how it would work. No, you didn't have your own parachute, yes, but it was tightly controlled, and how difficult it was. And I'm thinking, I kept scratching my head going, will you shut up? I just want to be able to write it. But he's saying we can't do that because that wouldn't happen, and that wouldn't be allowed. So I had to have a sneaking in when he was out back, and I had to put floor cleaner in a cup of tea to make someone ill so she could get in, and so I couldn't have done that without John's help, which is why I acknowledged him in the acknowledgements there, because he gave me a lot of help over how it. I mean, I didn't know that it was a WAF job, the Women's Royal Auxiliary Air Force thing. It's that they actually trained for this. It was quite a specialised job. I thought it was just a matter of bundling it all in a bag and slinging it over your shoulder, you know. I didn't realize how technical it was, and if things go wrong, then it could go very, very badly wrong. Because I just thought, just put it in your bag, put it on your back, and jump. No, you don't do that.
No, well, that bit of research, I think, did you well, because you got the balance right in the book. Because from my days in the army when I did parachuting, so I understand. So yeah, I think you've got the balance right there. Just moving on with, you've done 2 books now, and Terry asked me a few days ago about, is there a 3rd book? Is it a trilogy or what? Well, I know you've almost, if not finished the 3rd book, and your 4th book is still in your head, oblique on paper almost.
We've moved on from there even. Book 3 is in. Book 3 is in and awaiting approval. I'm waiting to hear that, so they're reading that at the moment and will let me know if they want it, if they want any changes and that type of thing. Book 4, I'm working on. I'm about 30,000 words into it, and I'm drafting ideas for book 5, but that's only drafting ideas at the moment. So
well, there's your answer, Terry.
Yeah.
So I don't know what would you call this, a quadrilogy?
Yeah. Have you got an end?
Maybe 7. Look at John Mayhew. He did 7 books in his DI series one, and he stopped for now. He's not saying he won't do it again. Maybe he could go on to more, 9, 10. Who knows? People do, don't they? Authors do.
Yeah, that's why I said that. As long as I've got ideas, I will continue. If I run out of ideas, or if Si and Pete at Burning Chair get fed up with me, then I'll stop. I'll probably continue writing for my own interest, but yeah, I'll just keep going and we'll see what happens. I mean, how many has Ian Rankin got out now?
Loads. Mark, I know Mark Billingham. He's got 18 in his detective series. We chatted to him a few months ago.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just keep going, and so when I get fed up, or if they get fed up with me, then I'll stop.
Yeah, you're a member of.
With book 5, we're getting, because it follows Sam and it's going on year by year by year. We're getting towards the riots. You probably remember
83, 84.
81 it was. Remember it well, yeah.
And I'm not sure I want to go there, to be honest with you. I know people are getting doctorates on this now, studying the riots of those days, but
it's one of the darkest places in the history, isn't it, of Merseyside area?
Yeah. I mean, because I was there, I was in the control room at that time. My husband was out there fighting, and I'm thinking, do I want to go there? Because I know a lot of people will be really annoyed by it, because they won't have the same attitudes that I've got. They won't have the same opinions I've got. So I'm going to have a think about that one. Because I try to, when I'm writing, I try to see what was happening in the world at that time and reference it, like the firemen's strike and things like that, without actually making it the story. Just, it's something that's happening as in the background of the story.
Yeah.
So I don't see how I can make the riots the background of the story, but I don't know. I don't know what to do about that one. I'm having a little think about that one.
Yeah, sounds
well,
tricky.
You've got plenty of time to do it, haven't you? Between books 3, 4, and then 5 coming out. So
you're a member of the Crime Writers Association. How does one become a member? Is it by invitation or? No.
It's not an invitation. It's anyone who's had a crime novel published via a recognised publisher can join. There's different levels of membership for people who are traditionally published, but also for self-publishing, and also for people who work within the industry. So yeah, anyone can, given certain criteria.
Okay.
It's not an invitation thing. Yeah. I'm also a member of the Society of Authors.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, I've got 2 quick questions. One was, who did the covers for your books, Trish? Was it Burning Chair, or did you have input into that? I think you told me it was Burning Chair, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but Burning Chair did it. They I don't know who it is they commissioned, but they commissioned the covers. They commissioned the covers, and then they will send a couple of copies to me saying which one do you like, and I'll point to the one I like. I mean, there was a bit of to-ing and fro-ing. When I was doing Blue Bird, we weren't really sure what we were looking for until we saw it. There was a bit of to-ing and fro-ing, and they quite liked the idea of my old class photo torn in two with like the moody background, sort of showing innocence lost, the class. And I think, well, actually, they were real serving police officers, and they might not like being on the front of a book. So I don't think we should use my class photo.
Yeah.
Even though they'll be all retired now, at the same time, I thought, no, I don't think we should do that. Anyway, we came up eventually with the girl walking, you know, in the Dockland area, and it's all dark and blue, and yeah, like that one. So when we came to do Blue Sky, we knew that we wanted it blue. We knew we wanted it moody, and it was much easier the second time. Yeah, the second time.
It's there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next one's if they keep the title, because they don't always keep the title apparently. Burning Chair have kept my titles, but some like to change the titles. Well, the next one I've called Baby Blues. So I've got in my mind a cover that I'd like, but it's going to be blue and moody and the similar thing. Once you got the first one done, you know what you both like, and you know pretty much what you're going to do.
So does Baby Blues give us a bit of a clue to what may happen with Sam and Gary? Or because Gary, without, again, I'm not giving too much away here, has gone off on a posting to elsewhere in the world. I won't say any more than that, but is that a bit of a hint of what's going on, Baby Blues, or not? Am I wide of the mark again?
It's not Sam.
Right, okay, we'll say no more because we don't want to give the plot away. So,
but there's the new Sprogs coming.
That was another question, because at the end of book 2, Blue Sky, 2 new recruits come in, 2 Sprogs, as you call them, probationers. One's a male guy who sounds quite good, and one's a female guy, female, isn't she? And she sounds like she is going to be one nasty person who's only in there to get to the very top as quick as she can. That's the impression I'm getting. And she's going to stand on a lot of toes.
Yeah, she's Charlotte. She's going to be
leader by name, leader by nature.
Charlotte is based on a couple of people who I knew. She's a princess amongst paupers, she thinks.
Yeah.
She's everyone else is peasants, and she does let everybody know that she's going to be their boss one day because she's a graduate entrant.
Yeah, she makes that very clear in the book. What advice would you give to someone who's writing a book for the first time? What would be your advice to them as the best thing to do?
God, so much. Right, you're probably never going to be rich and famous because most authors are not rich and famous. We have to work. But the only way you're going to write your book is to write it. You just got to sit down and do it. So don't think you've got to start at once upon a time and finish at the end. If you've got a scene in your head, write it. If you've got a snatch of dialogue you've heard and you like, you write it. You can worry about stitching it all together afterwards. Don't become wedded to a character, because the chances are that the publishers are going to ask you to get rid of some characters, and it might be the one that you really like. So you'd be a fool if you didn't take the advice of your publishers. They know what they're doing. Always have an offcuts folder. I never ever, even when I delete writing, I don't delete it. I put it in an offcuts folder, because you never know when you can use it again. Lastly, I'd just say, don't forget fads. Write what you want to write. Even, as I say, even if you have a book accepted right now, it's not going to be out till next year. So just because boy wizards or cowboys or pink jellyfish are popular now does not mean to say they're going to be popular next year. So if you write thinking, oh, boy wizards are dead popular now, I'm going to write a boy wizard story, by the time your book's published, that fad's gone. It's like waves coming in off the shore. Some are bigger than others and some last longer than others, but eventually they all pass. And if you try and jump on a bandwagon, you're going to miss the waves. If you write what you want to write, if you write what you're thinking of, write from passion, then you might actually start a wave. You know, when your book comes out, you might even start a wave. And just don't think because this is popular now, it's going to be popular by the time your book comes out, because you might have missed it.
That's great advice.
That's brilliant. So, Terry, over to you. I think we've just about run out of time, haven't we?
Yeah, it's going to cut off very quickly. But Trish, it's absolutely been a joy chatting with you. Really enjoyed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
No,
Great talking.
Brilliant. It's been a pleasure. But let's keep in touch.
It's been great to catch up again. Yeah. We should do this again when the third book comes out.
Definitely. Yeah. But for now, Trish, Steve, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Cheers.
Enjoy your evening. Thanks a lot.